Hey there, so this is Mr. McGill, and we're going to get started today with some division practice with 1 and 2 digit divisors. Make sure you have something to write on. It's always good to have a pencil and to take notes as we work through the problem sets. Okay, so doing the practice will help you to learn the method even better. You can also watch the video over and over again to kind of help you improve your understanding. So, let's start off with a 1 digit divisor. We're going to take 3,414 and divide it by 6. All right, so when I go through this method, what I'm going to do is think of the place values. I'm going to start with 3 thousands. All right, these are thousands you can't break apart, and that's the way I want you to think of them. Can you give the, say, $1,000 bills to 6 different people if you only have 3? No, you can't, not equally. You have to break it into hundreds, probably. Can you give 34 hundreds to 6 different people? Yeah. So here's where you need to understand, well, first of all, place value. And then also, you need to have a pretty good understanding of your math facts, okay? If you don't, grab a multiplication table. And since we're dealing with multiple groups with equal amounts, we can multiply whatever we think we can divide this number by. We can multiply that number by 6, okay? Because we're going to have 6 of those in a group, all right? So if I say, for instance, yeah, I think since I'm dividing up hundreds, I think I can put 500s 500 in each group, okay? Then because 5 times 6 is 30, and that's what I was dividing up, 34 hundreds, okay? Then, and that's going to equal, if I have 500, 3,000. If I did 6, that would be too much. So it would be 30, it would be 3,600. And I cannot take 3,600 away from 3,414. All right, so you have just witnessed the first 3 steps too of our method. First, we think about how much can we divide the dividend up by. This number right here. How much can we divide that up by? All right, then we're going to multiply. We're going to multiply that amount times the groups, because it's 6 of them all together, 6 times 500. And then we're going to subtract. We're going to subtract to see what? That's right, how much is left to divide. So in this case, 414, all right? And then we're going to check. We're going to check to see, okay, can we do it again? And if we can, we start back with division. So 6 does not divide 4 hundreds, so we picked a good number to divide by, but will it divide 41 tens? Yes, it will. So what times 6, how many tens can I put in each group? What times 6 is equal to something close to 41? So here's where you could also use a times table if you're not really familiar with your times facts yet, your multiplication facts. So what times 6? So you would look at your table, and your multiplication table would say that 6, 12, 18, and then it would do 24. The fourth one is 24, and I'm just skip counting. And then it would say 30, and then it would say 36, and then it would say 42. Now, 42 is too much, so I'd go back here to 36. So 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 6 tens, okay, because I'm dividing up tens right here, in 6 groups is 360 divided up, okay? So that would work. So now I'm down to subtraction. My next step, almost my last step. Let's see, 4 minus 0 is 4. I have to ungroup this and make it 3. And then I take 11 and subtract 6, and I'm left with 5. Now I check to see, can anything else work? Can I divide 54 into 6 groups? Yeah, you still can. You can divide these ones now, 54 $1 bills, say between 6 people. How much would each person get if I'm dividing them equally? What's the most they could get? Well, I use that times table again, multiplication table, and I keep multiplying to find what's close to 54 that I can multiply by 6. Let's see, that is, oops, I made an error. 48, there we go. That's the 8th fact. 6 times 8 is 48. And then the next one is 54. Oh, bingo. That one's exactly the fact I need. So I'm going to be able to divide the entire dividend up if I multiply 9, if I put 9 in 6 groups. So that would be 54. And I'd be left with, I'm making a mess of this. That's okay. That's what the scratch paper's for, right? So erase some of these multiples of 6, and I'm left with 0. So if the number is less than 6, I can't divide it up anymore. And 0 means you've divided it all up equally. So this ends up being 569 because I add all the partial quotients up together to get my final answer. Okay, and then this one is done. So that's dividing by a 1-digit number using, we might call this partial quotients, we might call it expanded form, because I'm doing it place value by place value. I'm dividing up the dividend, that's the number being divided by each of its place values. All right, and working through the number. All right, so let's go to another. All right, so for this one, we have 2 digits dividing a number. This one, we're going to, again, think about how much I can divide here, place by place. Before I begin, I'm going to think, what would help me get started here as I think of these groups? That's easier to multiply in my head, but close to 13. You'll see where this is helpful in a second. Well, 10 is close to 13, and it is a power of 10. I can do that in my head. So let's put that there for now, and now look at the numbers we're dividing. We have 4. Can we divide that into 13 equal groups? 4 thousands. No. So now I'm going to go to 43 hundreds. Can I put that into 13 different groups? Yeah, we can. We can think, what times 10 now is close to 43? So that's our next step. Well, 4 times 10 is 43, or I'm sorry, 40. So that's pretty close. But remember, this is 3 more groups. So I think that would end up being too much. I think 4 times 13 is going to be more than 43. So that tells me I want a number just less than 4, like 3. So I'm dividing up the hundreds, 43 hundreds, and I'm going to put 300 in each group. And let's see if that works. All right, so the 10 just got us there. The 10 was just to get us there, just to help us get started. So now, and 300 times 10 is 3,000. So that's definitely going to divide or take away some of this dividend and help me divide it up. So now I'm going to do 300 in each of those groups. So that would be the same as 300 times 10 plus 3 to see how much I divided. All right. So 300 times 10 is 3,000. Okay. And then 300 times 3 is 900. Because 3 times 3 is 9. And you shift 2 places for it being in the hundreds place. So now that means I have divided up 3,900. So I write that down below and I subtract. Okay, this is a good place to kind of, let's finish the subtraction up. And then I'm going to pause for a minute. So 21 minus zeros is 21. Now, I cannot take 9 away from 3, so I ungroup the 4. It becomes 3. The 3 becomes 13. 13, and then take away or subtract 9 would be 4. Okay. Now, have my steps changed at all for division since the one-digit problem we did just previous? Let's look back. We divided, multiplied, subtract, and check to see if we keep dividing. Okay. Did those steps change when I did 2 digits? I divided. Okay. 300 divides this number. And then I multiplied to check to make sure. 300 in each group would be 300 times 13. This is the multiplication method that I used is expanded notation or an area model. Okay. And I found out the answer was 3,900. Then I took that amount. So I multiplied and I subtracted. And now I'm going to check. Can I keep dividing? Can I divide 421 into 13 different groups? Can I share that equally in 13 different groups? Yes, I can. So that's checking. And now I'm going to circle back and divide again. All right, now how many times does this divide? How many times does 13 divide 421? Well, it doesn't divide the 4, but the 42. So what times 13 is close to 42? Or what times 10? We're back to that problem. Well, again, 4 times 10 is 40. Again, I think that's going to be too much. So I'm just going to stick with simple 30. 30 or 3 tens in each group. How much does that divide up? Well, if you look over here, the answer's already here. But we did 300 here. We only want 30. So that means our answer is going to be 110 less. We don't need to make it this large because it's not 300, it's 30. All right, so it's just 10 times less than the last problem we just did. So we don't have to do another multiplication problem. We can use that fact to help us. So 30 times 13 is 390, right? See how that's just one place value or 110 less than 3,900? It's basically the same problem. Now we subtract, and I have to ungroup again. Oh, no, I don't. This is 1, subtract 0. So I'm going to leave this as a 2. Oh, my goodness, I messed this up. All right, let me change that back to a 2. It's still an ugly 2. It's okay. 1 minus 0 is 1. Now I ungroup the 4, make 3. This is 10 times bigger. It's 12 minus 9 now. What's that? Yeah, 3. Okay. Now I check. So I've done it all over again. Can I keep dividing? Yes, I can. Okay. I need to divide up 31 ones. Okay, 31 ones. So how many times will it divide? Let's see. 4 times would be 40. 3 times would be 30. That might work. But remember, it's 13, not 10. This just gets us started. So I think the best number that's going to work is 1 less than 3. It's going to be 2. So how much is 13 plus 13 or 13 times 2? Yeah, 26. So there you go. Now we can subtract. And we have to ungroup. Make this 11. 11 take away 6 is 5. Okay, now I check one more time. Can I divide 5 by 13? No, I cannot. So the answer is, this time it's not 0. So the answer is a little different. Add these up and you get what? 332. Remainder 5. Okay, we're going to try one more problem. And hopefully you're writing all these down and getting some good notes and practicing. We're going to try one more problem. And this one you're going to try to do on your own. Okay, here's the problem. Let's say 5,320 8, okay, divided by 22. All right, so now how many times does 22 divide 5,328? Go ahead and pause the video and try this on your own for a little bit. And just to help you get started, remember, we're going to use a number to help us get started and do some of the calculations in our head. So you're going to try 20 because that's close to 22 instead, just to get started. Then you're going to multiply by the groups by 22 to see how much you're dividing up. All right, so try this now and pause the video, and then you can unpause to see my work and if it matches yours. Okay, so now you're ready to see the solution. Okay, bam, there it is. So look at the work, see if it matches yours. The answer should be 242, remainder 4. First, I divided 5,328 by 200. I put 200 in each of the 22 groups. That over here, you can see it over on the side, equals 4,400 when you add these two together. And so then I subtracted that to see what I have left. Have 928 left. And then I divided that by 40. I put 4 tens in each group. And that made 40 times 22 is 880. Okay, 880. And then I subtracted that from what the dividend was, and I was left with 48. I checked to make sure I could keep dividing, and I can because 48 is bigger than 22. Then I multiplied 2 times 22, and I got 44. Then I subtracted, and I was left with 4. 4 is smaller than 22, so I checked it, and I cannot keep dividing. So the answer is 242, remainder 4. Now, if you didn't quite get it and you needed more help, then just work through this. I would go ahead and write it down and write all the work on the side and try to do it as you would by following the steps. Divide, then multiply, and do the multiplication on the side here, and then subtract, and then check to see if you can keep dividing. And work through it, okay? See how it goes. If you need more problems, come back and I'll try to make some more videos soon. And pretty soon I'll have some problems related to decimal, dividing decimal numbers or dividing with a decimal number up on the site. All right. Good luck for now. Until next time. Ciao.